Hi, my name is Mia Danae. Welcome if you're new here. If you're not, it is so nice to see you again. Guys, I'm literally, you could barely see it, which pisses me off, but I'm literally wearing a red bra today in honor of, Natalie's, iconic red bra. It's, the little details, if anyone appreciates them. But you're probably not gonna see it at all, because my hair is gonna be like this. So, but you just know it's there. Actually, don't picture my bra. Please don't. Disclaimer. We are going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 4 of Yellowjackets. I will be spoiling it completely. If you have not watched it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching right now. Come back later. Just come back later, okay? Hit pause, add to watch later, whatever. Second disclaimer. I have some new subscribers who found me from my Yellowjackets video, which is now my most popular video that I've ever posted. It's not my normal content, but it is filmed like my normal content, so this is kind of what the disclaimer is. I am not Mike's Mike. I'm not one of those YouTubers who's gonna have, a board in the background with all the characters and, going in chronological order and everything's gonna be all perfect and mapped out and doing recaps and whatever. No. My videos are made to be talking with a friend, and this is just talking with a friend about a TV show. And that's how my videos are always gonna be. They're always a little chaotic and all over the place. But we get to the point. But if that is not your vibe, that is fine. If you want a Mike's Mike type of video, go watch Mike's Mike. Okay? And that's no shade. I love his videos. I watch them all the time. That's just not who I am. But a lot of people did enjoy the way that I talked about Yellowjackets, so I appreciate that. Also, just adding, once again, I'm doing this the same way I filmed my last video. I have not looked at any opinions on the internet about episode 4 yet. Nothing. So this is all my own, thoughts and feelings about it. So, season 3, episode 4. It's called 12 Angry Girls and One Drunk Travis. Okay, I'm gonna say, they say one drunk Travis, but throughout the episode, I could tell that Travis was out of it, for sure. But was he drinking? They never made that. I guess he was. I guess he was drinking alcohol. But I don't know. I know he had a cup in his hand. And then also the 12 angry girls part. So I guess it's confirmed that there's only 12 girls left at this point. Which I thought that there was 15. Maybe I'm just confused. To try to give this a teensy bit of structure. But let's be real, there's not going to be much structure. I think what I'm going to do is talk about the adult timeline first, because there was less of that this episode, and then we're going to move on to the teen timeline. So in the adult timeline, I love Jeff. I'm sorry. I fucking love Jeff, okay? I think he's hilarious. He is such good comic relief. But he was, obsessed with this idea that they are getting karma. That he's getting karma. And I'm like, Jeff, honey, if anyone was getting karma, it would be Shauna. And Girlie is doing fine. Her brakes cut out on her, so I guess not that fine. And she found out that nobody, cut her brakes. It was, I forget what the word was, but it was some sort of just, failure in her brakes. So nobody did that to her, is the thing. She was so sure that Misty did it. Also, I don't actually get why she ever thought Misty did it, because Misty was in the fucking car with her. Why would Misty try to kill herself? I know Misty can be a crazy bitch, but why would she do that to herself? It doesn't really make sense. But I digress. Anyway, so Jeff's we need to make up some karma points, and he starts throwing shit into boxes to donate to charity. We only saw Callie for 1 minute this episode while he was throwing this stuff in the box for charity, which I kind of hated, because Callie has really went up on my list of characters that I like. I really like her right now, at least. The only thing she said was something about Lottie. It was oh, is this because you threw Lottie on the streets? And Shauna was like, no. Which, I just think Callie just doesn't get it. She doesn't get Shauna and Lottie's relationship, and maybe Shauna needs to explain it to her. That, why she kicked Lottie out. She doesn't have to get into the cannibalism of it all, but she could be she could explain it a little. You know what I mean? She could explain it a little bit, and then maybe Callie would fucking understand why her mom doesn't want Lottie around. So, Jeff, signs him up to volunteer at Misty's work, and he's like, I didn't know this was Misty's work, and Shauna's like, I can't go in there, basically, like, whatever. And he's like, what? Why? Are, like, you and Misty fighting? And she's like, no. But then Misty walks right up to the car, and she's like, are you here to apologize? And Shauna's like, no. Which, like, Shauna, get over yourself. Ugh, come on, girl. Like, you know she didn't do it at this point. Just apologize. Just, like, I can't stand when people can't admit they're wrong. Shauna is, like, such that person, though. She really is. And I've told you guys already, like, I have a love-hate relationship with Shauna. Like, every episode, like, it could be like, I love Shauna this episode, I hate her this episode. Also, like, I understand her character, I understand where all these characteristics come from. It doesn't mean I fucking like them. Doesn't mean I think she's a good person, necessarily, even though I do like her sometimes. But, like, they're all morally gray. Because I really like adult Misty, especially in season 3. But, like, she's a morally gray character, duh. Anyway, so she, like, signs Shauna up for tapioca duty, which is basically just making pudding. And she thinks that's, like, gonna be a huge punishment for Shauna. And she, like, barges in, and she's like, do you hate it? And Shauna's like, no, not really. And she was like, well, I thought it'd be a punishment because, like, all you do is cook all day. So, like, have to cook more, like, whatever. And Shauna's like, I don't cook all day. And then Misty, like, she said something really mean to Misty. I forget what it was. I'm sorry, guys, but I forget. She said something, and Misty literally fantasized about stabbing her. Which, like, real, because, like, same girl, same. This episode, yeah, I get it. And she's like, you know what, I gotta get out of here. You know what, like, Misty's learning. She's learning, okay? Her triggers, she's like, I need to remove myself from the situation. So she gets her shit and she leaves, okay? But then Shauna goes into the meat locker and gets locked inside, like, from the outside somehow. And this is where I'm like, is someone trying to kill Shauna? I don't know. Like, I feel like they might be, but who the fuck is it? Meanwhile, Jeff is, like, playing bingo. Like, he's, like, chatting it up with the old ladies. Like, he's, you know, a big hit at the bingo scene. Anyway, so Shauna is trapped in the meat locker and she starts hallucinating Jackie, as one does, you know. Jackie, in her hallucination, is, like, kind of mocking her, like, you know, being like, are you too cold? Like, and she's like, I can take it. And she's like, no, you never could. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like it is very, it's very telling of the way that she viewed Jackie by the way that she hallucinates her. Because, like, I've said this in my last video, that Jackie could be bitchy, but she wasn't, like, an awful person. Whenever Shauna hallucinates her, though, she hallucinates her as, like, this person who's just, like, mocking her. And, like, and it's, like, it's definitely partly her guilt, I think, manifesting, but also how she viewed Jackie, I feel, in a way. Like, as someone who was, like, better than her, like, and she was so jealous of Jackie. It, like, very much shows in those hallucination moments. But anyway, it said something, like, about how, like, you're gonna die, like, the same way I did, like, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, somehow, Randy ends up, because Randy was there too. Forgot about that. Randy was there. Randy ends up in the kitchen. He hears Shauna banging on the door and he lets her out. So Shauna escapes death. But then she just dips. Like, she leaves Jeff there and just leaves. Oh, shit. Wait, I just realized something. Holy fuck. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I realized in a minute, but holy fuck. I'm so glad I didn't make this video immediately after watching, because, wow, okay. I wouldn't have put these things together. So she dips, right? And we don't know, like, where Shauna is. Okay. Jeff's still at bingo. Misty is at home. And she's, like, trying to see if there was, like, this letter left at the old age home that she thinks was maybe from Walter, because, like, with the invisible ink, it wasn't. And then we're gonna get back to that in 1 second, okay? The reason I'm not gonna finish the Misty storyline right now is because it's, like, the ending of the episode. So I promise we'll circle back, okay? Van and Ty are in New York City throughout this episode. Lottie is also in New York City throughout this whole episode. So we see Lottie come out of some sort of hotel or whatever, and she gets a call from Thaisa. And Thaisa's like, what did you mean when you were, like, sitting on that ambulance after Natalie died? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, you said it got what it wanted. You'll see. Lottie claims she does not remember saying that and then hangs up the phone. And then the next time we see Lottie, she is like in a mirror practicing an apology to somebody. And I'm gonna leave it there for a second. And then we're back to Van and Ty. And they're thinking, mostly Ty is thinking that guy, that waiter who died, was the reason that Van's cancer started to get better. So she's like, basically like suggesting they become serial killers. And so they buy a deck of cards and they leave the queen out on like the street. And they're like, if someone picks it up, then the wilderness chose and we'll kill them. Okay, wow, alright. Damn. Eventually some man picks it up and they follow him home. They get to the door and then Van is like, Ty, like, come on. I just like want to enjoy the time I have. Like, I don't want to do this. And Ty's like, okay. And I gotta be honest with you, I feel like in this whole scene, like with the card and wanting to kill this guy, I feel like it was other Ty. I really do. Especially with this whole thing where apparently the actress who plays Thaisa, older Thaisa, has said that we see other Ty a lot more than we think. I feel like that was other Ty. But I digress. Anyway, I think the next time we see them, they're in Central Park, and it's like kind of referring back to like an old episode, I think, where Van said that she wanted to take Thaisa to Central Park and buy her a pretzel and go on a horse carriage ride, whatever. And Van's like, what are we doing here? And she's like, you're gonna buy me a pretzel. And she's like, what are you talking about? She she tells her the whole thing. And so they buy the pretzel and they get on the horse, the carriage, whatever, blah, blah. I think that's the last time we see them that episode. Circling back to Shauna, all of a sudden, at the end, like, towards the end of the episode, Jeff comes home. He's like, where did you go off to? Shauna's like, I went around all these shelters trying to find this cat because during Jeff's whole karma thing, he wanted to find this specific cat for someone that was lost. She's like, I went around to all these shelters and look, I had to go all the way to New York City. Remember that, New York City. And I found this cat. And he's like, oh my god, you found the cat? And she's like, well, no, but it looks enough like the cat. And we could just leave it at, like, the owner's doorstep and they'll think that their cat came back. And he's like, that's a little unethical. But she's like, well, are you really going to criticize my karma? Which, like, yeah. I thought it was kind of, like, funny, like cute. Like, honestly, because, yeah, the cat that had been missing for 2 years. Like, the cat was probably dead. She was, like, right in thinking that. Like, she said that. Jeff was like, no, you're right. It's a nice thing to do. Like, it is. And, he's like, it does look exactly like the cat, too. So, then we go back to Misty, and Misty's, like, on the message boards, like, looking to see if Walter posted anything, and she sees, like, something like body found, right? And it's, like, but it's, like, blurred. Like, you know, when, like, an image is disturbing, whatever. And then at the same time, she gets a text from Walter that says, I just heard about Lottie. Are you okay? And she's like, what? And then she unblurs the image, and it's Lottie dead in the same place that she always hallucinates, those steps. Those underground steps that she always hallucinates. Adult Lottie dead. Adult Lottie, goner. She's done. Moment of silence. May she rest in peace. But here's my thing. I was like, when I first watched it, I was just like, oh, damn, like, I guess whoever she was apologizing to killed her, right? But here's the thing. Thaisa, Van, Lottie, and Shauna were all in New York at the same time, which means any one of those three could have killed her. It couldn't have been Misty. Misty was in New Jersey, for sure. But Thaisa, Van, and Shauna, and we don't know where the fuck Shauna was. Like, honestly, because we don't see her in New York at all. So, my theory is that there is going to be an investigation done by Misty, most likely, into the girls, because they're setting it up that it could have been any three of them that killed Lottie. It could have been someone completely different, but I'm like, why would they have all three of them specifically be in New York City at the same time when Lottie died? Murdered. If there isn't going to be some sort of, like, was it one of them? So that's kind of the end of the adult timeline. Lottie is dead. Murdered. I wasn't the biggest fan of adult Lottie, but she did make things a little interesting. Shook things up a little bit. I'm a little sad to see her go. But I am more interested in finding out where this goes with who killed her. Because I God, I feel like it was either Ty or Shauna. If it was any of the three girls. But, like, what a surprise it would be, like, if it was Van, that would kind of be, like, a shock factor, right? If Van's all like, oh no, let's not do this, and then, like, goes and kills Lottie. I don't know. Or it could be one of the ex-cult members. Goddamn, guys, I think I'm sick. Whew. You don't know how hard it was for me to film this video today. I'm really doing this for you guys. Let's move on to the teen timeline. Okay, and this is a big one, so forgive me if I don't get every single detail right. We're not fully doing recaps here. We're mostly just talking. So they obviously have Coach Ben, and they're walking him to his demise. So they think. But Natalie's like, nah, we're not just, like, gonna kill him. Because, like, he might not have even started the fire. And I stand strong in the fact that fucking Ben did not start that fire. Okay? I know he didn't. And she's like, we're gonna have a trial. And Shauna's like, you know, how Shauna. Okay, Teen Shauna pissed me off in this episode. I have never hated, well, I guess never is a strong word. But I really, really hated Teen Shauna in this episode. I literally wrote in my notes that she was a see you next Tuesday. But she's like dead set that he did this. But Natalie's like, we're gonna have a trial. And the rest of the girls are kind of like, okay, that's fair enough, you know. And Thais is like, okay, I'm gonna be prosecution. And Natalie was gonna be the judge. And then they're like, okay, who's gonna defend Coach Ben? And they decide on Misty, which I thought was the obvious choice. Misty's like, what? No, I can't do it. And then Van made fun of her, and she's like, isn't he, like, your boyfriend, or, like, at least in your head? Like, shut up, Van, okay? I'm sorry, that made me, like, mad. Like, they're always, like, I don't know, I have such complicated feelings about Teen Misty, but they're just always so mean to her. Like, even before the crash, even before she, like, destroyed the transmitter and all that, like, sometimes it just really, like, pisses me off. Anyway, she decides to do it, but first she's like really mad at him. And then he's like, Misty, I did not burn down the cabin. And she's like, prove it. And he's like, how can I prove it? Like, this is a fake trial. He's like, they already think I'm guilty. Like, this is just for show, basically. And she's like, well, you can't act like that if we're gonna win this case. And I had so much faith in Misty. I really did. I really, 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 really did. And I'm not going to go through all the details of the trial, but basically my thoughts on the trial were that, one, it very much showed how young they are. For the first time in a while, put into perspective, like, how young they are trying to act like adults and make adult decisions. Because they barely knew how a court worked, you know? And not that that's, like, totally common knowledge, like, not, like, you know, it's not, but they were just, like, trying to use, like, little things, like, they remembered, I guess, from, like, TV and, like, school and whatever, and trying to make this huge decision on whether or not to kill their coach. It just very much showed, like, a juvenile side of them that I feel like we haven't seen in a while, besides maybe them playing that little game in the first episode of this season. And it just reminded me, like, how young they really are trying, like I said, trying to be adults, trying to make adult decisions. Misty made a great case for Ben. Thaisa made a pretty good case against him. But I felt like most of Thaisa's argument was kind of irrelevant. Like, it had to do with things, like, from the past. Just, like, the fact that, like, he didn't help with Shauna's birth. Which, like, yeah, he should have. But, like, also, like, he ends up saying the girls completely, like, shut him out. Anyway, my favorite part of it was when they called Coach Ben to the stand. And his whole speech. And at first, he was like, no. He's like, I never wanted to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a substitute. I never wanted to be a coach. And then Misty's like, well, then why did you stay so long? And he was like, because you girls were great. You were the best. You were going to nationals. He was like, he admitted, like, you know, he grew fond of them. And, like, all the things that he did for them, like, that he had caught Van and Ty together at one point, and without them knowing, and he never told on them, and that he had Misty be equipment manager because he knew that she wasn't good enough to be on the team, and he didn't want her to get made fun of any more than she already was. But he thought that she should, like, be a part of it. That when they got out there, that he felt, like, very helpless, basically, because he lost his leg. And the girls weren't listening to him. And he just kind of, like, took a step back, and he kind of felt like he failed them. He should have helped Shauna when she was giving birth. And, you know, he has, like, a lot of regrets, like, about that kind of stuff. And it was, like, a very sweet speech, honestly. At the end, he was like, I didn't burn down your cabin. Like, he's like, I just left. And he's like, I shouldn't have abandoned you guys, and I'm sorry for doing that. He was like, but I was scared that I was useless and that I was gonna be next, like, after Javi. And, like, honestly, I believe him. He could have been bullshitting, but I believe him. Oh, and then, what's her name? Shauna pulled a fast one and was like, told Thaisa Natalie knew where he was staying. So then Ty ends up, like, bringing Natalie as, like, a witness at one point and makes her admit that she knew that he was out there. And she's like, yeah, like, I knew he left. Like, it was so stupid, and Shauna pissed me off so bad. She is gunning for Ben so hard that it, like, makes me think, like, did Shauna set the fire? Like, I don't know. Natalie admits that she saw him after Javi died and that he was leaving, and then Thais is like, okay, so, like, he was leaving, so, like, he couldn't just come back and set the cabin on fire. Like, I don't know, it was a whole... That just, like, that part really pissed me off. Then they were, like, gonna vote on guilty or not guilty, and they decided 2/3 instead of unanimous. So if 2/3 thought guilty, then he was guilty. 2/3 thought not guilty, he was not guilty. And they couldn't get it to be 2/3, and they kept voting and voting and voting, like, you know, a jury just keeps, like, going and going until they get unanimous, but whatever. And then Shauna makes Natalie shut up, and she's like, he fucking tried to kill us. And she, like, intimidates, like, a lot of people. Well, she intimidates, like, Jen, her, and, I think Melissa. And Jen ends up, like, being, like, to guilty. Van was team guilty the whole time. Then all of a sudden, during this, like rage speech that Shauna goes on, Travis and Lottie changed their votes to guilty as well. And maybe Mari, I can't remember. It ends up being he's guilty. And, like, that's kind of where the teen storyline, like, sort of ends. Natalie's, like, in tears, walking away. Like, Misty's, like, about to cry. And then Melissa, like, walks up to Shauna and she's like, you see that? That's power. So, like, I was right. They are joining forces for evil. Those two. They need to be separated. I thought maybe they could just have a cute little romance. No. They're joining forces for evil. Diabolical. Thoughts on the teen storyline? I am very convinced that Van at least knows something about the fire. And that she knows it's not Ben that did it. Because she was so on team guilty right from the jump. And, like, that's not really like Van, normally. Unless she's protecting Ty. Like, I feel like that is, like, the one reason she would be like that, right? So I feel like my one theory is that maybe Ty burnt down the cabin. Like, as other Ty. Van knows, and Ty knows, and they know that the others can't find out. So they're gunning for Ben so hard. But then I'm like, why is Shauna gunning for Ben so hard? Is it just a power play? I think it might just be a power play. She wants to be leader so badly. And it's like, girl, you have never shown one leadership skill. Ever. Like, just because you've gone through traumatic events does not mean you are a leader. Like, because, like, that's, like, what basically, like, Melissa was saying to her at one point. Like, no, it was Ty, sorry. It was Ty. Like, you went through this and that, and, like, don't you feel like you should have been picked leader after all that? What does that have to do with being the leader? Like, I'm sorry, like, a leader is chosen by someone who has leadership qualities, not someone who has gone through a lot of trauma. Like, that's not... What is the correlation? I'm not getting it. And I'm sorry, Shauna has no real leadership skills. Like, she never did. That's why she was always in Jackie's fucking shadow. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. If only Jackie was there. right now. Things would be so much different. Jackie would not be letting this happen. R.I.P. Anyway, I feel like I fear that Natalie is close to being, like, taken over as leader. I feel like Shauna might take over. And that's gonna be a shit show. Because Shauna can't lead. She is going to run them into the ground. Like, basically. I think that the reason why Travis and Lottie changed their votes had something to do with the psychedelics in the woods. I'm not 100% sure what. Like, I'm a little confused about that, to be honest with you. I am still on team Ben gets away, okay? In my heart, I'm hoping, I'm praying Ben gets away. Because, okay, like, we know there's 8 survivors, right? And, like, we've pretty much always known that. And that's, like, kind of boring, right? Like, we know there's 8. We know who 7 of them are. We're just waiting on finding out who the, like, last survivor is, right? But how fun would it be if Ben gets away and they think he's dead, but he gets rescued? And maybe Ben is the one who's been trying to kill Shauna, because after this episode, if I was him, I'd be trying to kill that bitch too. Also, Travis is just, like, not talked this season, really. Like, he just is not talking. Which, like, I get. He's been through a lot. Like, and between the psychedelics and his brother dying, it's just, like, a lot. But, like, I feel like he said, like, 3 whole words. Right now, I kind of like Teen Lottie. I don't know. I go back and forth with Teen Lottie, but not as much as Shauna. Not as drastically as Shauna. And I am really kind of standing firm, too, in my theory that Akilah might be the 8th survivor, because this episode she went to, I forgot to mention this, but she went to Lottie and basically was like, I want to do the psychedelics in the woods, like Travis. And she was like, actually, like, tell me more about this cave. Because, you know, she was telling her about how in the last episode, like, the cave, like, they all had those, like, dreams. And I guess they really did have, like, a shared dream, which is kind of crazy. And, like, this is again where I'm like, is the wilderness real? I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think it's all just kind of, like, crazy coincidences. Also, I heard a really good theory recently. They could all have, like, iron and mercury poisoning, and that perhaps where they're at is, like, an old mining site that got abandoned because of, like, the mercury and iron and whatever, and that those symbols on the trees are warnings to miners to, like, not go there because, like, it's toxic, because, like, whatever was going on in that cave was, like, not cool. But I feel like Lottie wants to go to the cave. She was like, tell me more about that cave. I don't know, maybe next episode Lottie goes to the cave. Oh, but if you don't know what I'm talking about when I said that I'm standing firm in my theory that I think Akilah is the 8th survivor, I posted a short where I explained why. If you just click on my channel and go to my shorts, and you'll see my little theory on why I think Akilah might be the 8th survivor, if you want to hear that. Also, predictions for next episode. I think Ben is gonna get away. That's hopeful thinking. That's, like, wishful thinking for me. I think that Shauna is gonna, like, overthrow Natalie as leader. I think that Misty's gonna start investigating who murdered Natalie and realize that Shauna, Ty, and Van are all suspects in her investigation, at least. And I think she's gonna reunite with Walter. Hopefully. I want them together so bad. I like them a lot. I think that we might be introduced to either the 8th survivor or maybe adult Coach Ben, because we're running out of adults. They're dropping like flies. We're down right now. We only have 4 on screen. Okay, there is a 5th out there, so either we're gonna see the 5th or we're gonna be surprised by maybe Coach Ben. I really feel like he's alive. I think it's wishful thinking. I just want him to, like, have his little happily ever after with his boyfriend, and then also get revenge on Shauna. I also think Callie is gonna, like, find out Lottie's dead, and it's gonna be, like, really devastating to her, because she formed, like, this kind of weird bond with Lottie, which I thought was really weird on Lottie's part, to be honest with you, but I feel bad for Callie, and I think she might be suspicious of her mom. Especially, like, when she realizes her mom was in New York that night. And I fear Jeff might end up being suspicious of Shauna as well, because he knows how she feels about Lottie. And then Shauna's gonna be like, I didn't do it! What do you guys think? Do you think Shauna did it? Like, do you think... And also, how weird is it that it was in that place that she always imagined? I thought that place was gonna be somewhere in the wilderness, like not in New York City. Like, where even was she? And I did not expect Lottie to die so soon. I knew that like another character was probably gonna die soon, but like not this soon. But it leaves a good mystery for this season, so I'm really excited for that. Okay guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Fingers crossed I didn't forget anything. I think I talked about all my opinions and theories. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna try to make weekly videos on Yellowjackets, as well as my normal content. I just didn't get a normal video up this week. My apologies. But if you're one of my subscribers that is like not here for the Yellowjackets content, I promise a normal video is coming. If you watch this whole thing, I love you. I will see you guys next time. Bye. But I get a little bored doing recaps, to be honest with you.